Good afternoon and welcome to the Social Work Today webinar, Speech Recognition Tech Extends How Caseworkers Can Be Productive Anywhere. We would like to thank our sponsor, Nuance Communications, Inc., for supporting today's session. Before we start the program, I have a quick point of housekeeping. At the end of the session, our presenter will be taking questions. However, you can submit questions at any time during the presentation. Simply use the question box in your control panel, and we will address as many questions as time allows. Joining us today as moderator is Eric LaScala, Manager, Solutions Marketing at Nuance Communications. Welcome, Eric.
Thanks, Jack. Glad to be here.
Now I'll turn it over to you to introduce today's presenter.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Jack, and thank you to Social Work Today for hosting us this afternoon, and thank you all for joining us and taking time out of your schedule. What I'd like to do before we get to Mike Millward is bring you through very briefly the agenda for today, and then we'll introduce Mike and take it from there. So we'll start by defining the problem. As you know, we have spoken to caseworkers and health and human services professionals, and that is paperwork really meeting caseworker mobility and how it is to manage that. So we'll briefly go through that. We'll talk about the impact of mobile documentation tools and their prior limitations. So we'll set the Wayback Machine a few years and talk about how it is that health and human services professionals have actually grappled with using tools to help them as they deal with documentation. We'll move forward and talk about cloud tech innovation and how we've now moved into this world of anytime, anywhere access. We'll speak to the rise of cloud-based services and specifically get into Nuance cloud-hosted speech recognition in a new product that we just introduced to market. We will show you a brief demonstration of our solution that we introduced actually this past Monday. Talk about speech recognition technology within the workflow of social and caseworkers and how it is that we can help automate that process. Bring you through, because anytime you're dealing in the cloud, obviously security is a concern. So we'll bring you a little bit through Nuance, the Nuance application, and how we partner with Microsoft to host that application in the Azure cloud, and then finally bring you through some Q&A questions. So with that being said, I want to introduce Mike Millward. I've had the pleasure of working with Mike for the last 3.5 years, but Mike is a 14-year veteran at Nuance, and he's kind of done it all within the organization, from technical support to his current role as a senior product manager. Mike is a terrific customer advocate. We've worked together again for the last 3.5 years, helping clients successfully integrate speech recognition technology into their documentation workflow, and he is always the go-to lead for the ongoing evolution of solutions and professional use cases like health and human services. He has a Bachelor of Science in Management Information Systems from the University of Rhode Island, and just overall a terrific, great guy. So Mike, welcome, and why don't we start off, as we said, by defining the problem, paperwork meets caseworker mobility. So I'll advance here to the next slide and turn it over to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Eric. Really appreciate that, and thanks everyone for joining today. So we can just jump right in here, and I'll definitely be the first one to say, I don't have to be the one to tell you that social services workers are extremely busy and overworked, and that's likely true more so today than ever before. There's a constant need for submitting reports and other critical documentation, both accurately and in a very timely manner. And that resulting documentation can impact people's lives dramatically. So it's absolutely critical that these documents are completed not only with a high level of precision, but submitted as quickly as possible too. And there's often a need to, work on the go. So being able to complete that required documentation, whenever and wherever you are, it's absolutely essential. So facilitating a way to allow social workers to accurately and efficiently complete this documentation anywhere and at any time, that would be just a huge difference maker. Obviously reducing the overall time spent on paperwork allows social workers to focus on the most important aspects of their job, which is, interfacing with their clients and providing that crucial assistance that they all need, much more so than just allocating a large majority of their time to, filling out paperwork and dealing with the administrative overhead here. Okay, go to the next slide. So in our past discussions with health and human services workers, we found that up to half of a typical workday can be spent on producing this documentation and performing various administrative tasks. Handling up to 25 different cases simultaneously, that can be extremely overwhelming. Each and every case requires tasks from, performing the client interviews, interfacing with a variety of different service providers, submitting those reports, and ultimately, reviewing and executing on those resulting decisions. And these workflows can often be inefficient and somewhat repetitive. And based on working with different and unrelated systems, effort may end up being unnecessarily duplicated. So that average workload can absolutely be daunting, and it may ultimately prevent social workers from being able to make that difference that they signed up for when they took that career path. It wasn't the intent of getting buried with paperwork. It was truly trying to make a difference in people's lives.
Great. Mike, I think, I know you and I have talked about this in the past. One of the things that I would add to this is, broadly speaking, if you were to substitute patient for client interview and substitute insurance companies maybe for service providers, the workflow is very similar to what goes on in healthcare. And I know that you certainly know that's the case, and there's a lot of overlap between the work that social workers do and the interaction with clinicians and the medical practice. So it is a common workflow all the way through, and one that, as we'll get into momentarily, obviously, we really add some value to. So let me advance here, and I'll let you pick it up again.
Absolutely. And now, the social workers don't have the luxury of compiling their documentation in that perfect, ideal environment. So it's really necessary to complete these tasks while they're on the go. Whether it be while you're off site or, traveling from one visit to the next, you need to get those reports created and submitted wherever you are and as quickly as possible. And given this difficult environment, it often results in a variety of different mechanisms being used to capture information. Often handwritten notes are taken, hopefully on paper rather than on your hand. And to, capturing quick voice memos, whether it's with a digital recorder or a mobile device, to even taking pictures on your cell phone as well. Any method that you have at your disposal is likely to be used here. However, that frequently results in the duplication of effort. It's necessary to retype and reassemble all of these details at a later time. So you're typically, performing these various tasks, but then at the end of the day, you have redundancy, you have duplication of effort when you're combining and compiling and performing that final document that needs to be submitted. But again, you're given the tools that you're provided with, you just try to make the best of what you have available to you today.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. So let's move on. And you and I, Mike, are old enough to kind of remember some of these mobile documentation tools and the historical limitations. So I'll let you bring people through kind of, what has been done in the past and how it is that social workers have, tried to deal with this unpredictable environment where they're constantly, getting critical information. It can be a less than ideal time. It could be in the car. It could be, when they're home. So throughout all of this process, throughout the years, there have been various tools. So I'll let you speak to some of that on this slide here.
Yeah, thanks. And again, given the tools that you're provided with, you try to make the best of what you have available to you. But often there's such a separation of these different tools and systems that it just doesn't facilitate an efficient workflow. It was useful to take voice notes on a microcassette but ultimately you still had to rewrite or retype all those notes and information back when you're in front of a computer later on. And even across different systems and solutions, that information was often siloed. It wasn't accessible across different mediums. So again, resulting in a lot of duplication of effort. That's a common, issue that people just have to deal with. Again, given the tools that you're equipped with, you just try to make the best of them. Even when using speech recognition solutions, early speech solutions had a very high barrier to entry. They required a user to extensively train just in order to start using them. They often had a high learning curve. In order to actually get comfortable and efficient when using the software, it took a long time to better understand what requirements you have and how to use the software. And additionally, a lot of speech solutions really required, a real high horsepower system in order to actually perform that speech recognition processing completely and entirely on your local device. So whether that was, requiring you to get a brand new expensive machine that maybe you couldn't necessarily allocate the budget to, or required you to use an older system that really couldn't perform as it needed to be able to get the most out of that speech recognition software.
All right. And Mike, I bet you're going to tell me that, in the last decade or so, some things have changed. So why don't we bring the audience through that and talk a little bit about speech recognition in particular, which is one of those tools that probably was used by many in our audience today, going back even to the late 90s and the early 2000s. So yeah, please bring us through that.
Absolutely. And, again, the quality and the accuracy of all speech recognition solutions, they're ultimately dependent on the amount of data that they're trained on. So early solutions, even Dragon Naturally Speaking, were based on a very limited amount of data that was used as a starting point for each individual user. But it then required each user to spend extensive time training the system, which was often done by reading lengthy scripts and stories, even before you could begin to use it. So that was the only way that the solution would be able to recognize your specific voice and your idiosyncrasies when you're talking very accurately. Also, these systems were only able to improve based on the very limited data that was delivered by that one single speaker that was using it. So that potential incremental improvement that the software would be able to make was very limited because it only had that single voice to learn from. And as the example on the slide here says, really early speech solutions were basically like a small child. That single user was the software's only known source to learn and to improve from. So this meant that not only was there a high barrier to entry in starting to use the solution, but that the initial accuracy when you first started out was quite limited, and it still required extensive usage to finally get to that point of having acceptable, precision and accuracy with your dictation.
Right.
However,
then
with
things change.
Things do change, and especially driven by the general acceptance of consumer speech solutions, such as Siri and Alexa, or some of the more commonly known ones. Have really driven the adoption of not only consumer speech solutions, but enterprise speech solutions as well. And these products being embraced have also helped drive the ability to learn. And that pool to learn from is a very large aggregate pool of data. And that has been the driver to facilitate speech solutions becoming more flexible, delivering a very high level of accuracy right out of the box, and to no longer require all kinds of specialized training procedures just in order to start using the program. And, I'm very proud to be at Nuance here and see over the past decade how much progress that we've made with, really jumping to the next generation of our speech solutions. With our speech solutions today, it's no longer necessary to spend that initial time training the software right up front before you even start to use it. The accuracy that you get is going to be over 99% right out of the box with no additional training. And by factoring in, the artificial intelligence component, we're able to learn from such a massive amount of data that we can now deliver such a more accurate speech solution from the very beginning that you start to use it. So again, no longer is training and an upfront adaptation needed. And one of the big differences from these consumer solutions like Siri compared to Dragon is that Dragon is a speaker-dependent solution. So what that means is that is actually tuned and optimized to your specific voice. And it continuously adapts and improves to your unique voice and your unique speech patterns the more you use it. So you have your own unique voice profile, which is constantly being optimized and tuned to better understand you the more that you use the software. And compared to most other speech solutions that are available, which are speaker-independent solutions. So that means really they're optimized to work pretty good for pretty much everyone, but there's no learning from your unique voice. And they won't adapt and tune and optimize and get better the more that you use them. So again, as the example says, now the child has such a vast amount of data that it can learn from. It can incrementally improve quicker than giving you the best accuracy that's available today with a speech solution.
Great, thanks, Mike. But as we've talked about, despite rapid advances, there's still one piece that's kind of been missing until relatively recently, and I'll let you take it away here. The quote from Michael Dell.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this quote from Michael Dell says it extremely well. Is that technology now allows people to connect anytime, anywhere, and to anyone in the world from almost any device. And this is dramatically changing the way people work, facilitating 24/7 collaboration with colleagues who are dispersed across time zones, countries, and continents. And that factor that has just recently been solved is that of connectivity. And by leveraging cloud services, we've broken down those silos where information had historically been isolated. And now, again, we're able to share that information, to share different documents, to be able to share ideas all seamlessly and without restrictions to anyone and to anywhere.
All right. And then that gets into the discussion, that we've been having. We talked about at the top of the webinar about leveraging cloud-hosted now speech recognition to help social workers and caseworkers optimize their reporting. So let's talk a little bit about just what the research told us when we went in this direction of coming out with a cloud-hosted solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the adoption of those consumer speech products and smart speakers have really brought enterprise speech solutions into mainstream usage now. Speech can ultimately be considered as really an additional input mechanism. It's a keyboard for your voice. And that allows you to have that additional option to more efficiently and effectively capture all of your ideas just by speaking naturally. And again, by leveraging these secure cloud infrastructures, such as Microsoft Azure, enterprises can confidently deploy these cloud technologies for all kinds of different solutions, one of which would be speech. And there's so many different benefits to leveraging, various cloud solutions. Many different examples of this, but, removing that burden of self-hosting and self-administration from your own company and entity, not having to manipulate and manage and upgrade software to roll out things that take a very long amount of time and also resources. To reduce that initial capital expenditure, to be able to have, predictable, recurring costs, and also to drive scalability. Deploying desktop software to, 10 users is quite simple, but when you're talking about hundreds or thousands of users, the administration task jumps exponentially. But by, leveraging these different cloud-based, solutions, that scalability is truly a difference maker to reduce the administration and to really allow that to be pushed out to all the users, to have it be seamlessly available to not have a large barrier to entry to get software and different services available to all different users, that's just a huge win. And also how mobile clients are becoming more necessary and relevant now than ever before. And that also is just directly related, is taking advantage of that cloud-based processing. You're able to then run these powerful applications and solutions on your iOS and Android devices and your thin client Windows devices, because you're offloading that required horsepower that you need to perform speech recognition processing up to the cloud. So no longer do you have to go buy, a $3,000 computer to be able to perform local speech processing. You can run it on a $200 thin client tablet that leverages the cloud, because you're taking advantage of what those resources are available up in the cloud.
Great.
And, again, this slide is pretty self-explanatory here, but obviously, it identifies such a large growth in cloud computing that is forecasted over the next several years. Just in North America, the cloud computing market is projected to be almost $170 billion by 2027. So we've obviously noticed these trends and seen other companies obviously gravitate towards this very efficient and better way to roll out solutions. So obviously we are taking advantage and following that trend, and are very happy to be lucky enough to roll out a great solution this past week.
Great. Well, let's dive into some of that, and with some specificity here, Mike, as it relates to our solutions and what we've brought to market for speech recognition, and how that's maybe different than the experience some in the audience may have had from years past.
Absolutely. Yeah, and again, based on where we see cloud computing going, we jumped on that train, and we are extremely happy to announce just a few days ago that we now have our Dragon Professional Anywhere and Dragon Anywhere mobile solutions are available in the United States now. So you'll be able to have the flexibility of having the solution available not only on all of your Windows systems, but being able to take advantage of iOS and Android devices, and every single client that you want to use. That all leverages our latest and greatest nuanced speech recognition engine that's running in the cloud. And we've had a very strong partnership with Microsoft, so we are leveraging the Microsoft Azure environment, which is one of, if not the most secure and reliable cloud infrastructures available today. Again, there's so many different benefits. I'm not going to go through line by line here, but, removing the burden of that self-hosting and administration from your own company, from your own IT department, to no longer have to manually manage software installations and software upgrades across many different computers and different devices, to allow the always latest software to be available to every single user automatically. There's no planning upgrades, there's no downtime, there's no interruption of work to be able to upgrade versions. You're automatically provided that latest and greatest technology by leveraging our Dragon Professional Anywhere solution. And again, that heavy lifting of the processing of speech, that's done in the cloud. So you're able to run software on thin clients and mobile clients and not have any kind of issue worrying about, is my device powerful enough to run this software? It also facilitates that reduced capital expenditure. It's not a massive upfront investment in order to roll out software to all of your different users. It provides you with a very predictable licensing model. It's also very scalable, which is, again, one of the huge benefits here. If you're pushing out software to 10 users, that could be done pretty easily manually. But when you're talking about hundreds or even thousands of users that all want to take advantage of this solution, that is facilitated by leveraging our cloud-hosted speech recognition solutions. Again, being able to have the flexibility of different environments, supporting different virtual environments that are very common in today's workplace. Again, leveraging the very secure and reliable environment for Microsoft Azure, again, makes everyone comfortable. It's a very well-respected cloud service that, thousands and thousands of different companies put their trust into Microsoft to run their software and protect their data in their Microsoft Azure environment.
Well, great. So, Mike, let's move on and just, Jack, maybe if we could actually show, we have a pre-recorded video here, and we can actually show the audience what that looks like. So,
insert visit form. August 20, 2020. Next field. Arthur Sanchez. Next field. March 30, 2009. Next field. Male. Next field. Arthur is a very bright and outgoing child, period. He is a hardworking student, both academically and behaviorally, and he cares very much about his academic performance, period. He tries very hard to make sure that his grades stay above average, period. To reach his full potential, Arthur needs structure and a daily routine in his life, period. He needs to have set boundaries and guidelines to follow, period. Next field. Arthur is initially quiet and shy, but once he is comfortable, he loves to tell jokes and to make people smile, period. He is able to maintain positive relationships with peers and is respectful and polite to adults, period. He enjoys playing video games and listening to music, and also likes to spend time outdoors, period. Next field. Insert positive bedroom check. New paragraph. Anchor speech focus. Arthur seems worried about his home learning for the upcoming school year, as being in a classroom provides him with the structure that he needs, period. I recommended that he spend time with his guardians to prepare a detailed schedule for at-home learning this school year, period. They should find a space for Arthur to do his work that is completely free from distractions, clutter, and noise, period. Release speech focus. New paragraph. We have scheduled a follow-up visit in 2 weeks, period.
okay. Thank you, Jack. So, Mike, maybe it's worth just a few seconds. For those that have seen speech recognition in the past, this will look familiar. And again, what has changed mostly is primarily the delivery and how it is that we deploy the solution over the cloud. But Mike, there was something you had pointed out in that demonstration on the anchored speech focus. So maybe just a few seconds on that would be worth highlighting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of our great new features with Dragon Professional Anywhere. And, there's often, when you're doing your dictation, a need to reference other documents, whether that be a website, a PDF file, a different record from a CRM system. So being able to anchor your speech and continue to dictate, even when you're navigating and going to other resources, to other screens, and you can even minimize the application that you're dictating into and navigate to all different other kinds of resources. And while you're talking and that speech is anchored, you'll continuously put all the text results in that target application. So you don't have to continuously toggle between application and application, because that can really inhibit your flow and your efficiency. You can continue to dictate, continue to make your notes, all while referencing other different materials that may be necessary in your workflow to compile that document or report.
Great. Well, let's move on and just talk a little bit about social services professionals in particular and the value that we're bringing with the solution.
Absolutely, and we're very confident that our cloud-based speech solution would be a huge benefit to social workers and their day-to-day tasks. From the automation and standardization of these various complex workflows that are required, every day. And it's even more critical due to the fact that, again, social workers deal with what we refer to oftentimes as time-sensitive, accuracy-sensitive, and compliance-sensitive details. These are not just notes to go into a file to be forgotten about. These are very relevant and critical notes that are going to make a difference in people's lives. So leveraging speech solutions can allow the social worker to complete their required reports quickly, but not to sacrifice details and thoroughness of the documentation they need to submit. Being able to speed up the creation of those time-sensitive documents, but also lower the costs and overall effort of producing them, it's a huge win and accelerates the overall turnaround time to get those reports entered in and submitted properly. And ultimately, using speech as an input mechanism, it can reduce the tediousness and allow that user to be more efficient while quickly and accurately completing their documentation. So rather than having all different kinds of handwritten notes, having emails, voice memos, documents, etc., and then needing to just recompile everything and stitch it all together, Dragon facilitates the user to be able to compile that all in a central location and to efficiently and confidently complete those reports, again, with keeping in mind time sensitivity, accuracy, and compliancy. Focusing in on those three key features is something that we truly have value in and obviously want to convey and deliver a solution that meets those requirements.
Great. And Mike, for the technically curious amongst us, maybe you could take the audience through a little bit on this slide here and how it is that we tie those components together, the Windows client and then the mobile, the iOS and Android client as well.
Yes. So you can see a little sketch of kind of what the overall architecture is of our cloud solution. So behind the Azure cloud, we have two components. So we have our Dragon Speech Server, which is actually what performs that cloud-based real-time speech recognition, accepting that audio, which is sent to our Azure, sent to the Azure environment and hits the Dragon Speech servers, fully encrypted. That audio is then turned into text, and that text, again encrypted, is then sent back to the target client. And there's different data packs that we have available, which are basically specialties. So whether it be general dictation, we have legal specialties and a few others as well to address different verticals that we are working in. And then the other server component is what we call the Nuance Management Server. So this serves not only for licensing and user entitlement to the software, but it also has many different customizations that a individual user can create and modify themselves, or an entire organization can create, specific pre-created, whether it's, custom words, it could be acronyms, things that you use, proper names that may not be in the vocabulary, or what we call auto text, which is basically a command that can insert a predefined, portion of text. So it could be something as simple as an email signature. It could be something as complex as a full form, which you saw in the demo, where you could have that form just very blank and open-ended, like you saw in the demonstration earlier. Or again, you have so many, there may be so many repetitive things where you could have a form halfway filled out or 90% filled out, and then the blanks of maybe somebody's name and date and location, those can all be filled in very quickly. So the power of those customizations, again, not only having individual users able to create their own, but having, an administrator being able to create all kinds of different, customizations and pushing them out to different users, different groups of users, whoever needs that access there. And again, so that's the back end of where these speech processing capabilities and customizations are, shared and entitled. But then all the different clients, any Windows client running Dragon Professional anywhere, the mobile clients on Android and iOS, they're all seamlessly connecting to the same backend. So we're delivering that, constant connectivity between the different clients, and really extending that mobile client into the use case here. It's really delivering that work anywhere scenario where, you only have your iPhone with you, you left your Windows laptop in your car or at home. You can still get your work done and leverage these powerful technologies just by using your mobile device. And again, knowing that the back end is controlled and always, makes the latest and greatest version available, it's such a huge difference and gets away from that prior requirement of manually managing all these desktop components, which again can be burdensome on the administration staff as well.
Great, thanks, Mike. Let's go through these next two slides relatively quickly because I know that we want to talk a little bit about security as well, but that's a very popular topic when you're discussing the cloud. So let's go through this, and I can ask you to speak to this slide as well.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, leveraging different cloud-hosted services, which includes Dragon, can really greatly assist in that full end-to-end client relationship. And there's such a tremendous value add to the social worker use case. Whether it's using Dragon Anywhere mobile while you're meeting with a client, capturing your notes in real time or right after you walk out the door, to then using Dragon Professional Anywhere to complete that formal documentation and finalizing the end result in the report that needs to be submitted. You can also integrate other cloud services such as, Microsoft OneDrive or a document management system to be able to have your different files available across different devices. And the capability of being able to measure that return on investment and quantify the boost in productivity that you'll see by using Dragon and see that turnaround time decrease with submitting case reports. So, at the end result, the client records are more accurate, they're comprehensive, they're repeatable and standardized, they're authoritative and durable, and again, Dragon facilitates such a better and improved workflow and gets away from, older legacy solutions that may be slightly efficient, but at the end of the day, could result in repetitive actions and really don't quite give you the full efficiency that you get when using our Dragon Cloud software.
Yeah, that's great, Mike. And I think the headline of this slide, there's a lot on it, but the headline is really capturing the entirety of that client relationship in the documentation and the various points from client encounter to memorializing it all the way through kind of connecting the dots with information that happens, toward the end before a case is filed and the like. So, I think that makes the point here. And, again, on this slide here, we really talk about the four elements that, we help optimize for social workers. So maybe quickly, if we can go through those, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to recap as to, what is truly important here is that, Dragon can enhance the effectiveness of that casework documentation by really focusing on improving and making the speed, improving the accuracy, facilitating immediacy of capturing information, but not losing that attention to detail. You need to have that very, extensive reporting, capturing all the relevant information. So detail is critical, but so is speed. You need to be able to juggle all of these things together and not sacrifice one for another. So again, being able to have the confidence of delivering quick and accurate information by using Dragon is a huge win and a boost in productivity for all kinds of different social workers.
Right, and I think that's really a good point, Mike, is this idea of not compromising accuracy for speed, and even the last bullet point of, trusting the dots will connect, meaning a social worker never knows that any detail that they might be gathering at an initial client visit 2-3 weeks or a couple months later may prove to be crucial. So the more detail you can gather, the better.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's get into the conversation then relative to security, redundancy. That's clearly very important anytime that you're dealing with a cloud-based solution. It's obviously something we take extremely seriously at Nuance given the customers that we work with. So before we jump into the Q&A, why don't we just cover these two slides and we can then move to the questions from the audience.
Sounds great. And just as some, context for everyone out there in the audience, Dragon Professional Anywhere is a new solution to North America, but the overall technology powering the solution is not brand new. It's actually been available in the market for a few years now under the product name Dragon Medical One. And that Dragon Medical One solution is used by hundreds of thousands of doctors today. And we can confidently and securely handle doctors dictating personal health information and HIPAA-covered information to create their medical records quickly and accurately. So we have, this is a proven technology that is extremely secure, and we take security, privacy, and how we handle data extremely seriously. And again, one of the reasons that we partnered with Microsoft is to have the solution available in the Azure environment. Being able to have 24/7 by 365 availability, guaranteed uptime, which this past year, it wasn't even 99.5%, it was 100%. There was not a second of downtime for this solution for all of these hundreds of thousands of doctors that were using our technology. And again, Dragon Professional Anywhere, we're using the exact same environment. So we're lucky enough to benefit from a very secure and trusted cloud speech technology that hundreds of thousands of doctors use every day and love the solution. And now we're able to bring the same solution, just optimized for non-medical usage, to all kinds of different users that can benefit from the same efficiencies and improvements that the same solution offers doctors.
Absolutely. And this kind of just as a visual that speaks to what you just spoke about. So the idea of having failovers, if there ever was a data center that went down, how it is that, you have an automatic failover as well. So I don't know if you have a couple more comments on that, but I think this is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, sure. So we'll want to leave a few minutes for Q&A here, but just briefly, we have multiple different data centers, what we refer to as active-active. So depending on what region of the country you're in, you will connect to the closest data center to you. In the event of some kind of catastrophe where if a data center, completely goes down, that is then automatically routed to the other data centers that are active as well. So even if, there was a hurricane that came through and took out the power to the entire Microsoft Azure data center, there are other geographically dispersed data centers that Azure has that we will automatically go back to. And even if there's a double catastrophe, we have processes in place for disaster recovery and business continuity plan to have a 15-minute recovery time objective. So again, there's such a serious dedication to, having that partnership with Microsoft, having our internal teams that continuously monitor our cloud solutions and ensure constant availability. This is something that we pride ourselves on, is to have a very, very robust and reliable solution that is secure, that is private, and that is very reliable. And again, over the past year, 100% uptime with the same back-end solution that we use for our Dragon Medical One solution.
Absolutely, Mike. And this speaks to here just, there's two components as you, articulated, the back-end piece, which is Microsoft Azure, and the client piece. And this slide just speaks to the security that we build into that Windows client or the Android iOS client. So again, speaking to how seriously that we take security. I would like to, Jack, I think we have had some questions come in, and I know lots of people would like to talk with Mike. So maybe if you could let me know if we have questions out there, and let Mike have an opportunity to answer some of those. We're about quarter of the hour.
That sounds great, Eric. We actually do have quite a few good questions demonstrating that people are pretty engaged in this topic. So why don't we hop into some of those right now?
Terrific.
All right. So our first question is, first there's a compliment on the presentation, which is excellent. But the question then is voice recognition for the professional speaking only? Will it tune off background noise or other conversations? And are there templates that can be integrated, for instance, assessment forms, treatment goals and plans, resources, et cetera?
Yeah, it's a great question. And yes, we pride ourselves on the flexibility of our solutions. So The voice recognition, it's not just professional speaking only. You can use it for writing emails, for blogging and tweeting and all kinds of different things. But obviously, we want to make sure that it's optimized for the professional use cases. And really, the more you use it, the better and more accurate it will become over time. With background noise, that is often dependent on the microphone that you use. So if you're just using your built-in, microphone that's on your laptop, noise, then that specific microphone will pick it up. So that could present a problem. So we definitely recommend using some kind of headset. Oftentimes, even non-expensive devices will still give you that, noise cancellation. So if the majority of microphones out there will filter that out, and our application can easily integrate with a variety of different microphones. So it's not like you just have to purchase and use one specific device. But again, the flexibility is very impressive, and being able to have the solution continuously learn after you start to use it. From the very moment you start to use it, it will get better. It'll be able to detect and learn from your specific unique voice patterns and quality.
Great. What other questions do we have, Jack?
Here's another one. How safe is the cloud in protecting client data? Is there any risk?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we pride ourselves on interfacing with or partnering with Microsoft Azure. So that is extremely important for us to be able to confidently say that everything is protected. There are not only, virtual restrictions put in place, but physical restrictions put in place for the actual data centers themselves. So, we had definitely looked at different partners and different, cloud hosting solutions that we could leverage with this technology. And ultimately, Microsoft and Microsoft Azure's platform were able to best address our concerns, because we have those same concerns that our customers may, have themselves.
Thanks, Mike. We have another good one that just came in. Is this product for individual purchase, or is it limited to a system or institutional purchase?
Yeah, so as of today, since we just launched our Dragon Professional Anywhere solution, right now we're primarily focused on the enterprise solution. In the near future, this will be available for, a single user that wants to purchase a single license themselves. But really, if you're interested in the solution, get in touch with us in some way. We'll make sure that you can get this latest and greatest speech technology. As of just a few days ago, we launched. We're focused on, helping out some of our existing Dragon customers migrate and upgrade over to the latest cloud solution. But we definitely envision the solution in the very near future being available to anyone and everyone that may want to use it.
I would just add to that, Jack, probably some members of the audience have used our individual products, Dragon Professional Individual. Those are also excellent products, and they are more geared toward individual users. They are not cloud-based like the solution we're showing today, but they do an excellent job. They load onto the hard drive of your laptop or your desktop, and they do an excellent job of speech recognition. So those solutions are available today for customers to purchase just on an individual basis.
Okay, that makes sense. And then the next question, I think, just builds a little bit more on that in as much as it's asking, how is Dragon Anywhere different than Dragon Professional Individual?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So mainly, and as I mentioned before, both products are those speaker-dependent capabilities. So the more you use it, the more it learns from your unique voice. But Dragon Professional Individual, that is the locally installed software. So everything, all speech is performed locally on that device. So that's where you go through and do a manual installation of a Windows client. There's no need for any kind of connectivity, but that, again, requires the computer that you're using to be able to support that processing power. So if you wanted to, use a thin client or a tablet device, that typically wouldn't be something that Dragon Professional Individual would potentially support. You'd have to meet the minimum requirements of the specifications of that hardware. Versus our cloud solution, Dragon Professional Anywhere, that really has a very low requirement for hardware. You can install it on a thin client device or an older system, because that processing, that heavy lifting, is all done by our Dragon speech server in the cloud. So you don't have the bottleneck of saying, okay, I want to run Dragon and Outlook and a few other applications on my computer at the same time, and then, I'm out of memory, my computer's going slow. Having all kinds of different applications running simultaneously, but then offsetting that speech processing to the cloud, that frees up a lot of resources, so you can use either an underpowered or older computer with confidence and not have to go invest in a brand new system that has that high specs to support running speech recognition software and all the other different applications that you may need to be running at any given time.
That's great.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Another question that just came in is, does the speech recognition tool recognize only English or other languages?
Yeah, absolutely. So we support many different languages. So, for Dragon Professional Anywhere, the solution that we just launched the other day, as it's a solution for, the United States, we're currently supporting just, U.S. English. We're also supporting, Canadian English and Canadian French as well. We do have the solution available in Europe for a little while now. So that supports additional languages like German and French and Dutch and Spanish and Italian and Swedish. So, we definitely support a wide variety of languages. It just depends on, what kind of location you're in. We do our previous, our existing applications, Dragon Professional Individual. Again, that supports 6 different languages. So our core languages are English, French, German, Dutch, Italian, and Spanish.
Thank you. Another question just came in. Is this product available in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it definitely, and we have people, using our US-based cloud, and they're connecting from Australia and New Zealand for testing, and there's really no latency at all. So as long as you have a pretty decent connection, there shouldn't be any concern about potential latency from being away from where our data centers are located in the continental US. So absolutely, if you'd like to, do some dictation from Puerto Rico or anywhere around the world, it definitely shouldn't be a problem as long as you have a pretty decent, internet connection. Then that's no problem at all.
Yeah, and I'd just add, Jack, to that quickly as it relates to languages. One of the things we didn't touch upon is, as Mike talked about the idea of data and how good the speech recognition has gotten. And today it even extends to not only that super high accuracy for English, but also we accommodate multiple accents as well, and being able to handle if we do work with law enforcement as well, and there are many Hispanic officers, and so we get oftentimes the question from the police chief, well, geez, will your solution work with someone that has a Hispanic accent or a Southern U.S. accent or a Brooklyn, New York accent? So accents even now, because of the amount of training that we're able to do, we're able to accommodate those as well.
Yep, excellent point, Eric. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that as well. So yeah, being able to adapt to those, supporting those accents out of the box, but then continuously having that incremental adaptation and improvement. The more you use the software, we can support pretty much any different accented language that's out there today.
Well, that's pretty amazing, and I'm sure it's one of the facets to the answer to the following question, which is, and I know you covered some of this in the early slides, but one of our attendees remembers using Dragon in the early 2000s with mixed results. Other than this solution being in the cloud, how is it better than what was used back in those days?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And, the evolution of speech recognition has just been tremendous. I joined Nuance in 2006, and, it was Dragon Naturally Speaking version 8 was the latest version out there. And, it worked. It wasn't the old versions of speech recognition that you had to pause between every word. You could do continuous dictation, but there was a lot of preparation and training to be able to have really great accuracy. You may get 80% accuracy until you went through an hour or two of training. Then you approach in the 90-95% area. And the algorithms for speech recognition have obviously improved and evolved over time. So even with our latest Dragon Professional Individual version 15, there really isn't a requirement for doing extensive training out of the box. You basically just have to do an audio calibration. You'll get a really good accuracy to start with, and then the learning is dependent on you basically running an optimization task. So that is still a requirement to do manually for our Dragon Professional individual software versus our cloud solutions. Since that unique profile data can be optimized continuously, it takes that requirement out of the user's hands. It's completely seamless to the end user, but they'll notice a very distinct optimization of it learning and improving just after a few minutes of usage. So it really benefits, again, on the artificial intelligence capabilities, being able to leverage that amount of data to learn from and to improve from. And again, it's not just that single user, but we can benefit from a large variety of data to really deliver the best-in-class speech recognition that's going to work for pretty much everyone out there, and not just, a newscaster who speaks very fluently. If you have an accent, if you have, different idiosyncrasies with your speech, it will learn and adapt and grow with you and deliver a phenomenal solution that'll benefit you in your day-to-day use case and requirements.
Thank you. Can you speak a little bit to the ease of setup and installation process?
Absolutely. That may be one of the best things about our Dragon Professional Anywhere solution. There are multiple ways to deploy. If you're running in a virtual environment, you can do that installation normally. You can have the normal Windows installer. But one of the biggest benefits is something called a click once installer, where it literally is a link that you click once and it installs. So you can email out all your users. So let's say the IT department purchases the software and they have a unique link. They send that link out to 1 user, 10 users, 10,000 users. All each user needs to do is click that link. It seamlessly installs that software on your desktop or your laptop, and it actually facilitates a constant upgrade. So if there is a new update to that Windows client, there is no need to go back and push out updates. It detects that and automatically upgrades that from the Windows system, so that client, that user, always has the latest and greatest, and the IT administrator doesn't have to worry about monitoring versioning, pushing out upgrades and updates, downtime, etc. So the deployment and scalability of Dragon Professional Anywhere is one of really the best selling points about this new solution for us.
Thank you, Mike. We've gotten through all of our questions, and coincidentally, we're right here at the top of the hour. So there was a lot of excitement and anticipation for today's presentation, and we want to thank you both, Mike and Eric, for sharing your time and expertise with the Social Work Today audience.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much.
And again, thank you to our sponsor, Nuance Communications, Inc., for your support of today's program. We hope that everyone in today's audience enjoyed the session, and we here at Social Work Today wish you all a wonderful week and weekend ahead.